says a couple of nice things, but let's get back to Billionaire Boy. This is the point of the letter. It's not good.
David Walliams, the comedian, actor, and author, is known for his outrageous humor and larger-than-life personality. While he made millions laugh with his work on Little Britain and became a beloved figure in entertainment, behind the scenes, Walliams' behavior sparked controversy and left many questioning his place in the industry. What exactly happened, and how did it affect his career? The truth might surprise you. Let's dive into the shocking story why Walliams suddenly vanished from the spotlight. When you think of British comedy over the past 2 decades, one name almost always comes to mind: David Walliams. Known for his outrageous humor, over-the-top characters, and flamboyant style, Walliams became a household name through Little Britain, a sketch comedy series that dominated television screens in the early 2000s. Alongside co-creator and co-star Matt Lucas, Walliams pushed the boundaries of comedy, delivering sketches that were shocking, hilarious, and often deeply controversial. From the very beginning of his career, he had a way of grabbing attention, not always for the right reasons. Walliams wasn't always a star. Before his fame, he was an aspiring comedian, actor, and writer trying to find his place in the competitive world of British entertainment. He grew up in Surrey, England, and even as a child, he had a flair for the dramatic. Friends and teachers recalled his natural ability to make people laugh, but he was also prone to testing boundaries. Even in his early years, Walliams seemed to thrive on the idea of being outrageous, pushing limits in ways that would later become both his trademark and his downfall. His big break came when he met Matt Lucas. The two had a natural chemistry that turned into a professional partnership, leading to the creation of Little Britain. The show, which aired on BBC, was unlike anything else on television at the time. Walliams and Lucas played a series of exaggerated characters, satirizing British society with sketches that were as shocking as they were funny. Characters like Lou and Andy, Daffyd Thomas, the only gay in the village, and Emily Howard, the man who thought he was a woman, became instant cultural phenomena. Fans loved them, but not everyone was impressed. From the beginning, critics raised concerns about the show's content. Some argued that the sketches relied too heavily on offensive stereotypes, mocking mental health, disability, gender identity, and sexuality. Walliams, ever the provocateur, never shied away from these critiques. In interviews, he often shrugged off criticism, claiming that the point of comedy was to push boundaries and make people uncomfortable. To him, nothing was off limits, and that fearless approach won him fans and enemies in equal measure. Behind the cameras, Walliams' behavior was already becoming a source of tension. Colleagues and crew members reported that he could be difficult to work with, often clashing with producers, writers, and even his co-star, Matt Lucas. While Lucas and Walliams maintained a professional partnership, there were moments when Walliams' drive for attention and perfection led to conflict. He was known for throwing tantrums on set, demanding rewrites, and refusing to perform sketches unless he was satisfied with every detail. Part of what made Walliams' early behavior so shocking was how unpredictable he could be. On one hand, he could charm almost anyone with his wit, intelligence, and playful energy. On the other, he could be ruthless when it came to his vision, alienating people who didn't match his pace or understand his comedic style. For a show like Little Britain, which relied heavily on collaboration, this sometimes created a volatile environment. Staff members had to navigate Walliams' moods, knowing that a single misstep could trigger hours of frustration or even the rewriting of entire sketches. His off-screen antics often mirrored his on-screen personality. Walliams had a flair for drama in his personal life, sometimes creating headlines for incidents that had little to do with his work. He loved public attention and, at times, seemed to deliberately court controversy, whether in interviews or at public events. It was as though the persona he portrayed on television, loud, unapologetic, and utterly unpredictable, bled into his real life. During the height of Little Britain's success, Walliams' popularity soared. The show won numerous awards, and he became a star not just in the UK, but internationally. Fans celebrated his outrageous characters, and Walliams became synonymous with bold, boundary-pushing comedy. Yet, as the fame grew, so did the scrutiny. The critics and the public began to question whether Walliams' humor had crossed the line. Behind closed doors, industry insiders whispered about his temper, his demanding nature, and his increasingly erratic behavior. One of the earliest warning signs that Walliams' behavior might affect his career came during a series of high-profile interviews. He was often combative with journalists, dismissing questions that didn't align with his vision or that he deemed trivial. While the interviews generated headlines, not all of them were positive. Some reporters described Walliams as arrogant, difficult, and even disrespectful, noting that his charm could quickly flip into rudeness if he felt challenged. At the same time, his personal life added fuel to the fire. Walliams was open about his private struggles, including his relationships, his insecurities, and his quest for acceptance in an industry that could be harsh and unforgiving. Some fans admired his candor, seeing him as relatable and human. Others, however, interpreted his behavior as self-centered or attention-seeking. In Hollywood, perception is everything, and Walliams' tendency to attract both admiration and criticism would later play a key role in his blacklisting. The early 2000s were a period of intense scrutiny for comedians who pushed boundaries, particularly in the UK, where debates about race, gender, and sexuality were becoming increasingly prominent. Walliams' comedy, which often relied on shock value and exaggeration, placed him in the crosshairs of critics, advocacy groups, and even government regulators. While many viewers laughed at his sketches, others saw them as harmful or offensive. The tension between his comedic genius and his controversial choices would set the stage for the professional consequences he would later face. Even within his own team, cracks began to show. Writers sometimes clashed with Walliams over creative decisions, arguing that he was too focused on attention-grabbing moments rather than coherent storytelling. Producers occasionally had to step in to manage disputes, mediating between Walliams' ambitious vision and the practical realities of television production. While his talent was undeniable, the energy he brought to the set could be exhausting for those around him. By the end of the first few seasons of Little Britain, it was clear that Walliams' behavior, both on and off the set, had created a complicated legacy. He was beloved by fans, praised for his fearless comedy, and celebrated for his ability to reinvent British sketch television. At the same time, whispers of tension, unpredictability, and controversy began to circulate within the industry. Those whispers would eventually snowball into a larger narrative, one that contributed to Walliams' eventual blacklisting from certain parts of the entertainment world. When David Walliams joined Britain's Got Talent in 2009, he was already a household name in the UK. Audiences loved his humor, his sharp wit, and his playful, sometimes outrageous persona. Producers likely assumed that Walliams' experience in comedy and television would make him a perfect fit as a judge. Initially, everything seemed to go smoothly. Viewers enjoyed his humorous critiques, sarcastic quips, and interactions with co-judges. His presence added a layer of levity to the competition, balancing Simon Cowell's often harsh comments and Amanda Holden's gentler approach. However, behind the camera, cracks in Walliams' behavior were beginning to show. Several participants and production staff later claimed that Walliams could be unpredictable, dismissive, or even hostile during auditions and rehearsals. Contestants described moments where his sarcasm crossed the line from funny to mean-spirited. In particular, young participants and amateur performers often felt singled out or humiliated. Some reported that Walliams would make jokes about their appearance, age, or even family background in ways that felt unnecessarily personal. While television editing often softened the impact for viewers, those on the ground experienced a harsher reality. One notable incident involved a child performer whose act didn't go as planned during a live audition. Walliams reportedly laughed at the child in a way that some on the production team later described as unprofessional and cruel. The child's parents were upset, and discussions were held backstage about whether the moment should have aired. While fans assumed it was just harmless television humor, the behind-the-scenes tension suggested a pattern. Walliams' comedic instincts sometimes overshadowed empathy and professionalism. As the seasons progressed, these issues became more frequent. Other participants, especially adult contestants with disabilities or unconventional acts, reportedly felt uncomfortable with the way Walliams commented on their performances. While he defended himself by claiming that his jokes were part of the show's playful and exaggerated nature, producers began receiving complaints from multiple directions. Crew members noted that Walliams could be temperamental, often challenging producers about script changes, edits, or the way acts were presented. Some even alleged that he pressured contestants to perform in ways that made for better television rather than respecting their artistic choices. The situation reached a breaking point in 2022. Leaked audio recordings revealed Walliams making inappropriate remarks about participants. The content of these recordings sparked widespread concern and criticism, with some accusing him of being unprofessional and crossing the line. The news created an immediate firestorm in the media, putting Walliams under intense scrutiny and casting a shadow over the long-running talent show. The revelations had a profound impact on Walliams personally. According to statements from his legal team, the fear of having his comments recorded and potentially leaked caused immense stress. It affected his ability to perform naturally on live television. Walliams reportedly felt that he could no longer be spontaneous or funny without the constant worry that his words might be used against him. This anxiety compounded over time, taking a serious toll on his mental health and overall well-being. Ultimately, the mounting pressure led to Walliams' departure from Britain's Got Talent in 2022. Leaving the show was not simply a career decision. It was a necessary step to protect his mental health and distance himself from the increasingly hostile environment surrounding the controversy. The exit marked a dramatic turning point in his professional life, as one of the UK's most recognizable comedians was suddenly removed from a flagship television program. The fallout did not stop there. Walliams' legal team filed a lawsuit against the show's producers, Fremantle, citing distress caused by the leaked recordings and the public attention that followed. They argued that the mishandling of private comments and the subsequent media coverage had significantly harmed Walliams, both emotionally and professionally. The legal proceedings showed the seriousness of the situation, showing that the controversy was more than just bad publicity. It was a formal dispute with real-world consequences. Walliams' departure and the lawsuit also sparked a wider conversation about the pressures faced by live television judges and the fine line between humor and unprofessional behavior. Many industry insiders noted that while Walliams had a long-standing reputation for comedic boldness, the leaked audio made networks and producers reassess the risks of keeping him on board. In the high-stakes environment of live talent shows, even a minor lapse or perceived lapse could lead to major consequences. For David Walliams, the Britain's Got Talent episode represented more than a career setback. It became the tipping point that contributed to his professional blacklisting. Networks, producers, and collaborators, already wary of controversy, began to approach him cautiously, if at all. The combination of leaked remarks, public criticism, and the legal battle created an environment in which Walliams' once thriving career faced significant obstacles. After the high-profile dismissal from Britain's Got Talent and the months-long legal battle, David Walliams faced a new reality. The television industry had become cautious around him. For years, he had been a household name, adored for his humor, his infectious energy, and his ability to make both children and adults laugh. Yet, the events on the show had a lasting ripple effect, reshaping how producers, networks, and casting directors viewed him. The immediate aftermath of the controversy was a noticeable decline in offers. While Walliams had previously been a staple on primetime television, family-friendly programming, and reality shows, he suddenly found that his reputation had become a barrier. Producers, worried about potential complaints, participant backlash, or negative media coverage, hesitated to attach him to new projects. Even opportunities that seemed perfect for his comedic style were pulled or quietly redirected to other entertainers. In essence, he had become a risk. Walliams' attempts to rebuild his image were met with mixed results. He appeared on panel shows, gave interviews, and engaged in charity work, aiming to remind audiences and networks of his talent and generosity. He also returned to writing, producing humorous books for children that gained critical acclaim and a loyal fan base. While these efforts helped maintain his connection with the public, they could not fully erase the stigma attached to his Britain's Got Talent controversies. Industry insiders noted that he was often passed over for high-profile projects in favor of less controversial personalities. The long-term effects of the blacklisting were particularly apparent in television casting. Family-oriented networks, in particular, were wary of hiring him. Executives worried that his history of on-set disputes and participant complaints could lead to negative publicity or even legal issues. As a result, Walliams found himself confined to smaller-scale projects, guest appearances, or work outside mainstream network television. His once lucrative contracts and primetime roles became rare. Walliams' situation also sparked broader discussions in the entertainment industry about accountability, humor, and professionalism. Many argued that his comedic style, while edgy and irreverent, was part of what had made him successful for decades. Others contended that public figures, particularly those in positions of influence on live television, had to balance humor with respect for colleagues and participants. Walliams' blacklisting became a case study in how a talented entertainer could be professionally sidelined despite continued public popularity. Despite the obstacles, Walliams did not disappear entirely. He continued to appear in interviews, participate in charity events, and write books. These activities helped maintain his visibility and reminded audiences of his talent. Yet, for many casting directors and producers, the Britain's Got Talent saga remained a cautionary tale. Walliams' name became associated with controversy, unpredictability, and the potential for on-set conflicts, labels that proved difficult to shake. Legal experts note that blacklisting can be quiet, yet deeply effective. Unlike a formal ban, it often works through quiet decisions. Executives simply do not call. Roles are quietly reassigned, and projects are designed without consideration for the blacklisted individual. For Walliams, this meant that while he remained a recognizable figure and retained his fan base, his career took a big hit. Offers for big TV shows, starring roles in family programs, or popular specials became few and far between. The industry's response also highlighted a key reality of fame. Public affection does not always protect a celebrity from professional consequences. Fans may continue to adore Walliams, celebrate his books, and laugh at old sketches or television moments. Yet, the business of entertainment operates on trust, reliability, and predictability, qualities that producers feared had been compromised by his behavior on Britain's Got Talent. In interviews following the controversies, Walliams expressed regret for moments that may have hurt participants or colleagues, though he often defended his comedic intentions. He maintained that his humor was meant to entertain and was never intended to harm anyone personally. Still, the combination of live television, unpredictability, participant complaints, and public scrutiny created a professional hurdle that proved difficult to overcome. Today, Walliams' career is a warning for other entertainers. Being talented, charming, and popular isn't enough to protect someone if their behavior is seen as crossing professional or ethical lines. His story shows how careful performers need to be, especially in comedy, where what's said can affect contestants, audiences, and the networks that employ them. Ultimately, David Walliams' story shows how being a celebrity can be both powerful and fragile. His talent, humor, and creativity have made a big impact on British television, but his mistakes, especially on Britain's Got Talent, show how fast things can change. A career that was once thriving became limited, and both Hollywood and the UK entertainment industry have been careful, if not hesitant, about involving him in new projects. The shocking actions that got him blacklisted serve as a clear warning. In show business, even the biggest stars can face serious consequences if their behavior upsets coworkers, participants, or fans. Walliams is still working, but his career now carries the mark of controversy, a career limited not because of his talent, but because of choices that went against industry rules and expectations. As fans look back on his rise and the struggles that followed, Walliams remains a fascinating figure, talented, funny, but also a warning about the dangers of pushing humor too far in today's entertainment world. His story isn't finished yet, but the blacklisting and what came after will always be a major chapter in the life of one of Britain's most famous comedians.